vacuum of space offered no mercy as Marcus watched his exploration vessel spiral toward the crystalline planet below. His hands gripped the control panel, knuckles white against the smooth metal as warning sirens wailed their death song through the corridors. He'd been searching for signs of intelligent life in the outer reaches for 7 years, and now it seemed the universe would claim him for his ambition. The crash landing was violent, throwing him against restraints that burned his chest. When the emergency systems finally stabilized, Marcus stumbled from the cockpit into an alien landscape that stole his breath. Towering formations of living crystal reached toward twin suns, casting prismatic shadows across emerald plains that seemed to pulse with bioluminescence. He managed to recover the emergency beacon and was checking his suit's oxygen levels when he heard it. A sound like wind chimes mixed with something ethereal and utterly otherworldly. Marcus turned to see her emerging from between the crystal formations, and for a moment he forgot to breathe entirely. She was humanoid, but undeniably other. Her skin held an opalescent shimmer, and her eyes were vast pools of liquid silver that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Her clothing appeared woven from the same crystalline materials surrounding them, catching light and transforming her into something between woman and living gemstone. "You fall from the sky, in metal and fire," she said, her voice carrying undertones that seemed to resonate directly in his chest. How delightfully reckless. Marcus found his voice, though it came out rough. Are you real?" Celestine, a noble of the Vasteri civilization, moved closer with predatory grace. She'd been exiled to this remote world for refusing an arranged union with someone she didn't love, and she'd grown lonely in her crystal sanctuary. Now, standing before this human, with determination burning in his dark eyes, she felt something awaken within her that centuries of isolation had nearly killed. "Touch me," she whispered, extending a hand that seemed to glow with inner light. "You'll forget every other woman you've ever known. That's what we call a Vasteri promise, a binding of souls through physical contact." Marcus knew this was dangerous. Every survival instinct screamed at him to maintain protocol distance from an unknown alien species. But when her fingers finally brushed his gloved hand, even through the suit material, warmth flooded through him that had nothing to do with his thermal systems. She guided him to a shelter within the crystal formations, a hollow space lined with soft, luminescent moss. As they waited for his distress signal to be received, Marcus found himself unable to look away from her. Celestine told him of her world, of the rigid protocols she'd rejected, of the centuries she'd spent waiting for something to shake her from her crystalline prison. When she removed his helmet, the air was surprisingly breathable, and when she kissed him, Marcus understood what she meant about forgetting everything else. The universe narrowed to just her silver eyes and the impossible gentleness of her touch. The twin moons rose over the crystal plains, casting double shadows that seemed to create a world between worlds. Marcus lay beside Celestine, his fingers tracing the geometric patterns that appeared and disappeared across her glowing skin. She fit against him perfectly, as though their bodies had been designed by the universe specifically for this moment. "You're thinking very loudly," Celestine murmured against his chest. "I can feel the questions in your mind like echoes." "I'm terrified," Marcus admitted. "I don't know your biology. I don't know if what just happened between us was real or some kind of Vasteri ability I can't understand." Celestine lifted herself on one elbow, her silver eyes reflecting the double moonlight. What you felt was real. Our bodies were designed to create compatibility across genetic boundaries. It's part of Vasteri technology embedded in our evolution. But the emotions, she paused, her luminescent hand moving to his face. Those are entirely our own. Before Marcus could respond, an alert sounded from his damaged suit. A ship was descending toward their position. Celestine tensed immediately, rising to her feet with liquid grace. "Kale," she said, her voice taking on a formal tone, "my guardian has come." The Vasteri warrior who emerged from the sleek vessel was imposing, taller than Celestine, with skin that shifted between silver and deep purple. His expression was neutral, but Marcus saw his eyes flick toward their entwined fingers with something that might have been disapproval. "Celestine," Kale said, bowing formally, "your family has been searching for you. They received word of an exploration vessel in the prohibited zone." "I'm not returning," Celestine said simply, stepping closer to Marcus. "I've made my choice." Kale's eyes shifted to focus fully on Marcus, and for a moment, tension crackled between them, like static electricity. "The Vasteri Council will not accept this. Your exile was meant to humble you before marriage. A human is beneath. A human who fell from the stars into my world." Celestine interrupted, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to shake the crystal formations. "Whose touch reminds me that I'm more than ornamental. Whose eyes see me as more than a breeding prospect for imperial politics." Marcus stood, extending his hand toward the warrior. "I'm Marcus, and I don't know what Celestine has told you, but—" "Kale," Celestine said softly, "he came to ensure my safety. He was never meant to enforce Vasteri protocol." She turned to the warrior, vulnerability crossing her features. "Help us, please. I'm invoking the ancient rite of sanctuary. We need time." Kale looked between them, his expression unreadable. Finally, he seemed to soften, reaching out to touch Celestine's shoulder in what Marcus recognized as an affectionate gesture. "You always were the most stubborn of the noble line. Very well. You have 3 days before I must report your location to the council. Use them wisely." As Kale returned to his vessel, Marcus pulled Celestine against him, marveling at how her skin seemed to heat with her emotions. Beneath the twin moons, with crystal towers reaching toward infinite stars, they danced through the night. A human and an alien, writing a story that could reshape worlds. Kale's warning became urgent reality on the second day, when Marcus discovered ancient ruins beneath the crystal formations. They were older than Celestine's civilization, older than anything Marcus had ever encountered. The architecture suggested a species far more advanced than current Vasteri technology, with inscriptions that seemed to shift and rearrange themselves when viewed from different angles. "This shouldn't exist," Marcus whispered, running his fingers across the smooth stone. "The Vasteri told me this continent was dormant, empty, except for crystal formations." Celestine's luminescence dimmed with what Marcus had learned to recognize as fear. "My people have secrets," she admitted, "ancient truths that the Council believes too dangerous for general knowledge." They descended deeper into the ruins, and that's where they met Roan, a human archaeologist who'd been searching these ruins for 3 years, hidden from her own government by sympathetic locals. She was weathered, brilliant, and immediately suspicious of Marcus and Celestine's arrival. "Your Vasteri," Roan said, her hand moving toward a device at her belt. "I don't suppose you're here to excavate the truth about your people's origins?" "Roan," Marcus said, recognizing her from academic journals he'd read years ago. "Dr. Roan, you disappeared." "I found something my government and the Vastari Council both wanted hidden," Roan said. "The Vastari didn't originate here. They were colonists, like us, and something happened to the original inhabitants. Something catastrophic." Celestine moved deeper into the chamber, where murals covered the walls. Impossibly detailed frescoes depicting beings of pure light descending from the sky, transforming into corporeal forms. "The Transcendents," she breathed. "Our mythology speaks of them, but the Council claims they're only legend." As they explored, Marcus felt the weight of discovery pressing down on him. This information could change everything. The power dynamics between human and Vastari civilization, the very understanding of their place in the universe. That night, secured in a chamber Roan had been using as a base, Celestine pulled Marcus into darkness away from Roan's listening devices. Her hands trembled as she touched his face, her lips finding his with desperate intensity. If the Council learns what we've discovered, they'll silence all of us," she whispered between kisses. "My feelings for you are one thing. Rebellion they might tolerate, but knowledge of Vastari origins? That's existential threat." Marcus held her close, her luminescent skin providing the only light in their small sanctuary. "Then we make sure the truth reaches people who will listen. Your people, my people, we deserve to know. And we deserve to choose what happens next, not have it dictated by councils and governments." Celestine's kiss was answer enough, passionate and terrifying and absolutely certain. She pressed herself against him, her skin glowing brighter with each touch, creating light that seemed to come from deep within her very essence. Marcus understood then that what they shared transcended species. It was a connection written into their very DNA, a possibility the universe had created when it decided to seed two worlds with different variations of the same potential for consciousness. When Roan found them in the morning, tangled together among ancient star charts, she simply smiled and left them alone to redress, muttering about cosmic irony and the inevitability of interspecies romance. The temple at the ruin's heart was impossible in scale, carved into a mountain that shouldn't exist according to all Vastari geological records. Its entrance was framed with inscriptions that matched those on Celestine's skin, not markings she'd been born with, but ancient activation sequences that responded to her Vastari bloodline. "You're meant to be here," Roan breathed, examining the architectural alignment. "Your genetic line is literally encoded into these structures. The Vastari didn't colonize this world. They were created here as part of something vast and intentional." The implications cascaded through Marcus's mind like dominoes, each one threatening to topple his understanding of reality. If the Vastari were created, engineered beings, then Celestine, his Celestine, was the product of intention in a way that made human existence seem almost accidental by comparison. Then the warrior arrived. Prince Vorath, Celestine's cousin and chief enforcer for the Vastari Council, descended with his full royal guard. His skin was darker than Celestine's, almost black, shot through with veins of silver that seemed to pulse with power. His eyes held the same vast intelligence, but none of Celestine's softness. "I should have known you'd return to the Forbidden Chambers," Vorath said, his gaze dismissing Marcus and Roan entirely. "Celestine, Our family has gone to considerable effort to keep this world's true history contained. You've complicated matters by bringing outsiders. They deserve to know, Celestine said, stepping in front of Marcus in a protective gesture that made his heart ache. All of them deserve to know. The Vasteri were created. We're not the pinnacle of evolution. We're a project, and we deserve to understand by whom and for what purpose. Vorath's hand moved with inhuman speed, and suddenly Marcus was on his knees with pressure crushing his chest. Celestine screamed, a sound that shattered crystal formations around them, and the pain released as quickly as it had come. The purpose is irrelevant, Vorath said coldly. What matters is stability. The Vasteri are content in our roles as traders and explorers. This knowledge would destabilize everything. You would destroy our civilization for sentiment. I would free us from ignorance, Celestine shot back. That's what you're really afraid of, isn't it? That if your people knew the truth, they might choose differently. They might choose love over empire. They might choose futures not written by ancient architects. Roan moved subtly toward the temple's central chamber, and Marcus understood. There was more here, deeper information, probably automated systems that would be triggered by her presence. Vorath was equally aware. Warriors blocked her path. The standoff stretched taut as monofilament. Then Celestine did something Marcus hadn't expected. She reached out to Vorath, not with aggression, but with genuine sadness. I remember when you taught me astronomy, she said softly. You showed me that our sun was just one star among billions, that our world was just one planet among trillions. You taught me wonder, cousin. When did wonder become threat? Something flickered in Vorath's expression, and for a moment, Marcus saw the warrior as he must have been before imperial service hardened him into stone. Celestine pressed her advantage, moving closer despite the distance between them. Help us learn the truth together, as family should. Vorath's hand fell, and the tension fractured like broken crystal. If I do this, he said quietly, there's no return to the old hierarchy. Vasteri society will fragment. It will transform, Celestine corrected. That's not the same as destruction. Growth always looks like chaos from inside it. Vorath activated a hidden sequence, and the temple's center chamber opened, revealing technology that made Roan's equipment seem like stone tools. Vast networks of light and data, waiting for someone with proper genetic markers to interface with them. The data flood was overwhelming. Celestine, connected to the ancient systems through her Vasteri genetics, transmitted everything directly to Roan's equipment, while Marcus held her hand, keeping her anchored to the present moment as past eons flowed through her consciousness. The transcendent species had seeded humanoid potential across multiple worlds. Vasteri were one experiment, designed for adaptation and longevity, bred to explore and settle new worlds. Humans were another, more chaotic, more creative, more unpredictable. The ancient architects had wanted to see what would happen when such different approaches to consciousness encountered each other. And now, through Celestine and Marcus, two branches of the same cosmic tree were entangling, creating something neither species had anticipated. When Celestine finally disconnected from the systems, she was glowing so brightly that Marcus had to shield his eyes. It's not a choice anymore, she whispered. We're coded to be compatible because we were meant to meet, meant to merge, meant to create something new. Vorath looked at his cousin with something approaching awe, The Council will call it contamination. They'll demand genetic recalibration, forced separation. Let them demand, Roan said. Because we're releasing this information simultaneously across both human and Vasteri networks. Every scientist, every philosopher, every common citizen will have access to the truth. You can't put this back in the box. The transmission sent. They stood together in the ancient temple. Human explorer, alien noblewoman, Vasteri warrior, and human archaeologist, watching as two civilizations began their reckoning with origins they never knew existed. Marcus drew Celestine into his arms, and she wrapped herself around him, her luminescence mixing with his human warmth, until neither could tell where one being ended and another began. Their kiss tasted like starlight and promises, like futures unwritten by empires and councils. What happens now? Marcus asked softly. Now, Celestine replied, her silver eyes reflecting infinite possibilities. We write the ending ourselves. We show them that species aren't meant to stay separate. That love isn't contamination, it's evolution. It's what the transcendents were always hoping we'd discover. Vorath extended his hand, and Marcus clasped it firmly. Kale appeared at the temple entrance, having monitored everything from above, his expression shifting from stern guardian to something more like approval. The Vasteri Council is mobilizing, Kale reported, but so are human governments. Somehow, encountering you two has made them realize that cooperation might be more beneficial than conflict. Roan was already making calculations. If we can establish a joint research station here, cross-species teams studying the transcendent technology, we could move beyond simple coexistence. We could actually learn to think together. As the twin moons rose over the crystal formations once more, Marcus and Celestine stood at the temple's apex, watching both human and Vasteri vessels arriving, not in conflict, but in cautious convergence. Their touch remained constant, hand in hand, hearts beating in synchronization with each other, and with the vast ancient machinery beneath them that had been waiting all this time for the right moment, the right individuals, to activate the next phase of creation. The universe, it seemed, had been planning this convergence all along. And in their love, Marcus and Celestine had become the bridge between worlds, the proof that species could transcend biology, that connection could rewrite destiny, and that sometimes the greatest adventure was simply allowing yourself to fall completely for someone from another world entirely.